Okay, here we're going to go over how to build rapport in a final expense presentation. All right. There are a lot of open-ended questions that we have here. They have to do with their family, what they do for work, if they're retired, their kids, grandkids, where they live. Even if they're retired, you ask them what they do for work. So what these questions do is they're designed to open people up to get them talking about themselves. Okay, you want to get someone talking about themselves and what they're interested in. The best way to find out what they're interested in is where they put their time, right? So these questions help you figure out where they put their time and also help you evaluate whether it's worth continuing the presentation or moving on to someone else. I'm going to go through some of this here. Okay, some people say don't pre-qualify people. Well, I give you permission to do that because we get a ton of leads to call. Okay, so and I'll show you why. Just because like no does not mean no, it means not now sometimes. All right, so with Rapport, the key thing is to listen. When you ask a question, listen. Okay, respond to what they're saying. Don't just respond to get to the next question. Respond to what someone says. Listen to what they say. You can anything goes here really. And when you're asking them these questions, you want them to start kind of going off talking about something, like something they're passionate about, a funny story. You'll know. You know what I'm talking about. If you've ever sat there and talked to someone, you can tell when they start to light up when they start talking about what they like, right? Me, I like video games. So if someone starts talking to me about certain game that I like or whatever, I mean, I'll just keep talking about it and talking about it, and we'll be able to engage in that conversation. And I will form a greater bond with that person because they're just hearing me out. They're communicating with me about what I like. So I will start to like them, right? Think about it. All your friends that you have, for the most part, you probably share pretty similar views on topics, right? Or you have something that you can relate to about. You can relate with each other about. All right. So most friends share common interests and beliefs. All right. And the people that you may used to be friends with, but not now, maybe your interests and your beliefs changed. All right, so I'm going to start off here. We ask, how are things going for you right now with all the uncertainty in the world? This may date this video, but this just has to do with COVID and everything else going on. So they say, oh, geez, oh, it's been crazy. You know, we've been locked up, or I've been here, or they're like, oh, I don't know about that whole thing. My town's got 200 people in it, or whatever. They'll say whatever. Okay, you want to get them engaged in communication. If they say something interesting to you, then respond appropriately. Now, if they just say, it's all right, say, oh, how's your town been handling the pandemic? And then they'll say, oh, well, we've been doing the mask thing, or been doing this, and then I say, yeah, oh, geez, listen, where I am, it's been crazy. It's a busy city, and a lot of people have been sick. I've been fortunate enough to not get sick, but have you gotten sick? You haven't had COVID, have you? Now, the reason we like to ask this is because, one, it's one of the health questions. So there you go. There's some of your fact finding in the rapport building. But it also sets it up because you can be like, oh, if they say yes, oh my gosh, how was that experience? And then they'll talk about it, right? And then talk a little more about it. Be interested. Respond with empathy or enthusiasm or praise or hope, depending on what they answer you with. Have you been able to hold down a job during all of this? Next question, right? If they say, oh, I'm retired. If they say, I'm retired, great, congratulations. I hope I can retire someday. What you used to do for work? Or what do you do for fun in retirement? It's another valid question. If they're under 60 and they're not employed, say, wow, geez, how have you been able to make ends meet? That's tough. If they have no income, then hang up and call the next person. Right? What I mean by that is don't just, if they say don't just hang up and call the next person. Say, oh, gee, you right there, you can kind of, I would pre-qualify and pre-qualify them. Just be like, hey, look, I'm so sorry that you haven't been able to manage, employment. And this is looking out for their best interest too, because, if they can't afford it, they're not going to keep it. And they may get discouraged to the point where they never want to call you again. So I would say, okay, look, now if we could solve, say, all your problems here for like 40 bucks a month, if we could get all this taken care of for even 40 bucks a month, is that something that would overextend your budget, right? Now, this is the only time I'd bring up budget really, because if someone's under 60, they're not on Social Security, they may be on disability, which doesn't really pay that much, but they may be on disability, they're not on Social Security yet, and if they're unemployed, there's a much higher chance, since they're not on Social Security, that they don't have any cash flow coming into the household, no income. So no income means bills are tough. If someone doesn't have any money coming in, unless they already have money, they're not going to want to keep paying you, or they're not going to want to pay a new bill. So then I would say, hey, look, since you're not employed, you don't really have any ways to pay your bills, your income's been challenged. If we could take care of all this for like 40 bucks a month, is that something that would overextend you right now? And if they're like, no, I'm okay. My wife works, or my husband's been able to hold down his job, or my kids take care of me, or whatever it is, then okay, great, and you can keep moving forward. But if they say, oh yeah, that's too much, then say, okay, let me call you in a couple of months. Maybe the situation will have changed, because I wouldn't want to do anything that you wouldn't even be able to manage anyway. Okay, now you can call them in a couple of days. Maybe they'd have changed their mind, right? Or maybe not changed their mind. Maybe they talked to someone and found like some source of income. All I'm saying here is you don't want to go through a 30-minute presentation for someone who told you that they have no money, but it was real though. So this is a way to figure out if they have an income source, if they're under 60, without really saying how much money do you make. Okay, and if they are employed, say, geez, you're fortunate. You're lucky. I'm pretty fortunate too. I've been able to keep my job during all this. And what do you do? Right? Ask them about their job. Oh, I do this. Oh my. And usually if they say something, you can relate to it in terms of someone you've known who's done that, a friend or family member, or maybe something that you may know about that position. Something you can relate to in some way, shape, or form about what they say. If not the thing itself, you can relate to usually the emotion that they may express about how they feel about it. So you wanted to have them talk about this and let them talk if they want. Share things about yourself. Ask questions about the job that show you're interested. You can really ask anything that comes to mind. Okay. You want them to see that you're a friend here. Next thing, family life. So do you have any kids? You sound like you'd be a good dad. If they say yes, awesome. Do they live near you? Yep. Oh, cool. What do they do for work? They do this. Oh, wow, you must be a great dad. I hope I have kids someday, and I hope they just pursue their dreams and grow up to be whatever it is that they want to be. You seem like you raised a good family there, or however you want to approach it. These are guiding questions, so it's open-ended. It's designed to stimulate a conversation. You have to nail this here. You have to nail the rapport building. Every step of the sales process, you have to hit, because if you skip this, they don't have enough communication with you yet to trust you with more important information. So by prying all this data out from them, one, you have cool conversational pieces, and it will give you a good day because you'll have good conversations with people. It makes it relationship based, not transactions. You can go home, I made 10 friends today. This is great, right? You can have it be a relationship based thing. Also, if you can't get them to talk about these things, it's going to be almost impossible to get your clients to give you their bank information and their social security numbers and things like that over the phone. Okay. So next we go down here to a marriage relationship. Are you married? You say yes, right? Say, oh, how long have you been married for? Right? Say, okay. Well, I like to use this joke. If they say, oh, I've been married for 20 years, say, what? Jeez, I can't get my girl to like me for more than 20 minutes. What's the secret? Okay, and I kind of engage them in that, and they talk about the relationship a little bit. They say, oh, now this is important here. This is going to evaluate if it's a one-legger and if you should keep going with the conversation or if you have to bring in the decision maker. Okay, so if I'm talking to a guy and he says he's married, and then I say, okay, now listen, does your wife make the decisions about these types of things, or do you? Like, does your wife handle the insurance stuff, or do you make these decisions yourself? And I ask that because if he says, oh, no, my wife handles all that, then you're going to want to ask to talk to his wife right then. Hey, is your wife home? If no, can we call her? If no, when will she be home, and when will she be available to talk? Because if you get this guy, you can try, but chances are, from my experience, most of the time, when you get someone who's not the decision maker to do something, The decision maker gets upset, they feel disrespected, they don't like you, they feel like you forced them into that situation, and all of a sudden they become the expert in insurance. Okay, what's the secret to a long marriage? Great question there too. Next, ask, keep this light and enthusiastic and be interested in them. You must take on the idea that they're the most interesting people in the world. The most interesting person in the world right now is this person. Nothing else should take your attention except this person. This should take 5 to 7, maybe 10 minutes before moving to the next part. You have to establish a connection here. I cannot stress it enough. If you nail the rapport, they don't care if you don't know everything about insurance. These are very basic insurance programs. It's like as basic as it gets. You're not trying to wow anybody here with features and benefits. You will sell them more in the rapport building section than you will sell them in the presentation of the insurance. Now, people can argue with this with me all day. I firmly believe the sale is made right here. It's not made later. The sale is made right here in the introduction, in the rapport building part of your presentation, and in the fact finding. The sale is made. Not in the presentation. They all know what life insurance is. You pay a certain amount of money, you die, you get another amount of money. It's not like you're the first person to introduce them to this amazing concept of life insurance. No, you may be the first person though to establish a relationship with them about this thing. You have to get them in a good mood. One, we're talking about tough things. So we're talking about a tough decision to make. This is something that has to do with them dying, and people don't like to die, right? So we want to get someone in a good mood so that they're comfortable about talking about a tough subject. Number 2, serious people don't make decisions. So if you're mega serious through the whole presentation, and you try to be expert, super serious insurance agent, once you ask for the sale, I got to think about it. Oh my gosh, I got to do all this figuring out. No, people make decisions when they're not super serious. The best decision maker is just someone who's in a good mood, enthusiastic, who isn't super serious, and they can see what you are presenting to them is a benefit for themselves and their family. So that's how you go through the rapport building. It should take 5 to 7 minutes. Any other open-ended questions about their lives are okay. If they start going on about like some other thing, talk to them about it. You want to pull it back to the sale after a couple minutes and guide them through here. Okay, you may have some awkward transitions sometimes, but if you just kind of, oh, that's awesome, and then ask the next question and just do a smooth transition, you want to guide them through this whole script here. Okay, any questions about the rapport building, just reach out to me.